This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, welcome back to today's session. So we are discussing about Linux basics, right? And of course, the Linux basics are very important for an DevOps engineer. We are, learning the required skill in the Linux platform to, right, proceed with our actual DevOps tool configuration processing, right? Well, so to get start with our today scenario, let me logging into the EC2 instance using my PuTTY. I have an EC2 instance running on my AWS account. Let me take that IP address, right? And now we know how we can logging into the server, right? By using the SSH protocol and the port number 22. By default, we need to attach the key pair, right? So I'm sure most of you guys are having issues in doing the practice of these sessions. You might be stopped the SSH and then you are not able to log into the server. So on some issues that is still fine. So that way you will exactly know, right, the importance or the significance of the SSH services on the server side, and of course we can understand the importance of the services, how the services are serving the services, right, to the end users, correct? And this is just for the kickstart, guys, and going forward I'll be talking about more other services as well, which will be really helpful in the real time, right, which are very business specific applications we'll be discussing as well going forward, right? So I'm just logging into the server to get into the scenarios, guys. EC2-user is my username in this case, and logging into the server, and we need to run sudo su hyphen to get into the root, which is the super user where I can run all of my commands, right? So this is great. So now really I wanted to create users, then I want to logging into the server using the user defined user accounts, then I'll talk about the permissions today, right? So definitely, what is the reason, guys, why I'm creating multiple users? Why can't everyone logging in with the same username, correct? So obviously all the users who are logging into the server will not be doing the same activity. Every user has their own job responsibility. Every user must be having their own permission what needs to be done on the server, right? That's the reason it's highly advisable to have everyone has their own individual user account to logging into the server, right? Well, so let me create a user account here. Maybe I'm just creating an account with my name for now, right? And let me set a password. I'll just go with PR123. Well, now I cannot logging into the server, right? Because by default the server is only a key-based authentication. Let me do the change. Now we know that the SSH is following the configuration file, right? SSH is following the configuration file uh, to know the behavior, how it has to work. So the SSH configuration file is available in etc location. In SSH location, the file name is sssd underscore config, right? And we need to edit this configuration file, right? We can use the navigation commands in VI editor. I'm pressing J now, right? We can go to the location where the parameter is there to enable the password based authentication. Let me keep it as yes. Okay, let me save this. Let me try it again, guys. I'm sure that there is some mistake is here. So I'm just going back to the server again. Yeah, it is good. Password authentication is yes. Then let me save the VI editor, and we know that the SSSD service has to be restarted, right, whenever there is a change to the concerned configuration file, right? So now I can logging into the a server using a user-defined username. Let me try that. So let me take the IP address.
Hello, Pierre, you are not audible. Screen is now.
Well, guys, if you don't listen to me, I mean to say, if you don't get my audio, I think that is still considerable. First of all, let me know, guys, if you are able to hear me. Yeah, that's true. So I just wanted to give you one quick important note that so when there is a power cut at my side, there will be a small downtime, guys. There will be at least 15 to 20 seconds of downtime will be there. So I have a interrupted power supply power backup. That means the backup will take some 15 to 20 seconds of time to restore the services. So you cannot hear me, right? Until then the power is back. So that is still fine. There is no issue. Anyway, I will not be delivering anything during that time, as I know that there is a the downtime in the services, right? Hope it is accepted. Well, now getting to the scenario, right? So I'm just logging into the server, guys. All right. So now I'm not giving any credentials. Sorry, I'm not giving any key. Please be on mute, guys. Thank you. Right. So I'm just only, right, changing the font, and I'm just changing the connection keep alive value and click open. I'm not using any key-based authentication here. This is the password-based authentication. The username is PR, the password is PR123, right? So I just have logged into the server with the ordinary user, which is PR, and of course, I can run a command called who am I to see who currently logged into the server. Good. And we know that, right, the users cannot, right, or run all the commands using this ordinary user account, right? So let's say if I want to run something called mkdir as an example, you see the permission denied, right? Maybe I want to create an user add is the command we already familiar about that, right? So maybe I'm just creating the username. You see the permission is denied. So I'm just trying to help you guys in understanding that when you logged into the server as a ordinary user, all the commands will not work, right? So there are a lot of restrictions are there in the default usernames that are created. So there are certain commands that will be run only from the super user. Let's say this user add command. The user add command will run only from the super user. This will never run from the ordinary accounts. Why? This is the command that is changing the main configuration of your system. So there is no predefined list of commands which will be run from the super user, which will be run from the ordinary. But as a quick note, any command that is doing the major configuration changes in the system, those commands will run only from the root account, not from the ordinary. The user add, yes, this is one the the command which is changing the configuration of the system as we are creating the new users, and this will never run from the ordinary account. So this command must be run from the root only. So do you think now I can use this sudo su hyphen command to switch to the root? You cannot. Of course, I'll show you now. First of all, it is asking you the password of the PR user. Let me give the PR user password. You see something error. PR is not in the sudoers file. This incident will be reported. What it is proving that I have created a account in this server and the user is able to log in, but the user is restricted only for the ordinary user access. He cannot run any commands that are related to the root access, and even the user is not able to switch to the root by running this command. This sudo su hyphen command will work only for EC2 hyphen username by default, not for any other ordinary accounts that you are explicitly creating. Good. Now, the user is logged into the server, but the user is logged in to do some operations, right? So as per the business, right? As per the business, this user has to run some commands. Maybe this user is responsible to create a user accounts. Maybe this user is responsible to manage the users in this system as per the job need, let's say, right? So now how this user can create a user accounts, because the command user add is not working here. So this is where the tricky. If I give a root access for this user, the user not only running this command, he can run any commands, correct? Once he enter into the root, once this guy enter into the root, assume that I have given the root permissions to this user somehow, then he can enter into the root. Once he enter into the root, he can run any commands, right? But that is not the requirement here. The requirement is this particular user is intended to run only the user related commands because his responsibility to manage the user accounts, not something else. So now the question is, how do we grant access to run a specified list of commands as a root account from the ordinary account? That means I still should be logging into the server as a PR, but I should be able to run these commands. That is my job responsibility, but I don't get the root access. So to manage this kind of the requirements, right, we need to work with the we need to work with the sudo concept, right? So sudo is the concept in the Linux systems which will be granting the super user access on the specified list of commands for the ordinary users as well. Once I give the sudo access to these commands to this PR user, then the PR user also can run these commands as like a root. Though he is not a root, but still he can run these commands as like a root because of the sudo permissions that we are granting in. Correct. So that means in real time, probably we will be creating the user accounts for the users, and they will be letting you know that or they'll know that what commands that the user has to run as per the business need. So we need to grant the sudo permission to run that particular commands, right? Now I'll let you know how do we grant the sudo permission, right, for that particular commands. Now, so before I give the access to run this user add command for this user, I wanted to look at this error, guys. If you see the error, yes, the bash shell is reporting the error. This is clear that whatever the command I'm running here is submitted to the shell, which is the bash shell in this case. The bash shell is reporting that the permission is not there for this user to run this command. That is great. But you see something like /user /sbin /user add permission denied. What it is? /usr /sbin /user add. This is what I wanted to highlight now, right? So I only given a command called user add, but the error is giving that /usr /sbin /user add permission denied. So this is called as a absolute path where this particular command is located. That means whenever you are running any command, the command means what? The command is just a script right in the backend, correct? So that script is located as a file in the specified location. This is the complete or absolute path where this command related script is available. Whenever you are running this command, that actually executing the script that is available on this specific location, guys. So you can think of like this is just a shortcut to run the command, but the script, right, of this command is available on this location. So maybe you can run user add command, or we can even run the command with the absolute path. You see the way how I'm running the command now, both are same. So you are running the user add, or you run /usr /sbin /user add, both are same. So this is the absolute path where that particular user add command script is available. You can verify that as well. You see, under the slash, under usr, under sbin, there is a file called, the file name itself is the user add, that is actually containing the script that will do the user creation process for you, right? All these commands will be available by default as part of the OS installation. We need not to worry, but we just need to understand the absolute path where these commands are available. Commands, or even we can call this as a binaries, right? Why binary? This particular file, how I can say this is the file, guys? If you see this starting entry, this is hyphen, that means this is a file. But if it is a file, can I cat it? You cannot. Why? The content inside this file is not a plain text format. The content inside this file is the encrypted, or in the strictly speaking, the content inside this file is in the binary format, right, which the system can understand how to run that. You cannot cat these files as well. That's why I'm calling this as a binary files which are executable, right, to run this. Every time we cannot run the command using this complete absolute path, right? That is the reason we are using only the shortcut, which is the name of the file, right? So now how, okay, how the system know whenever you are using the command to run, how the system know that the command absolute path is on so on, then it has to run that actual file or actual binary file. That is where we need to understand now. For every command that you are running, yes, there will be a absolute path where the command is located. So even for ls, whenever you are running a ls command, it will actually look for what is the absolute path where this ls related command script is available, then that particular file will be executed. If you wanted to know the complete absolute path of the file, sorry, of the command, we can use the command called varies. You see, varies is the command, and give the command as an argument. This will tell you this particular command is located in which path. You can see that the ls command is available where? The ls command is available under the slash, under usr directory, under bin directory, under ls is the file name. So like that, everything is like, okay. So let's say, where is mkdir? The mkdir command is available in usr bin location, right? So where is the touch command? The touch command is also available in the usr bin. So this is proving that most of the commands that you are executing in the Linux system will be available under usr bin or usr bin. So this is the default location where the OS specific commands will be located. So if you see ls-l/usr/bin, there are many. Okay, yeah. So I'm just trying to look for the list of files available on this location under usr bin. If you see, guys, all these are the Linux commands. Okay, so all these are the Linux commands which are available in the single location. Whenever you are using these commands, it actually executes it from this location only, right? You can see all the commands available here. Great. Now the question is, when I'm using a command, how it know that the absolute path, how it know that it has to go to that usr bin location and it has to run that particular file, correct? That is where we need to inform to the system, hey system, whenever I'm running a command, right? So can you go to that actual absolute path where this command is available and can you execute that? That is something you need to inform to the system. That will be done through the variable. Okay, the environment variable is the concept here. Okay, so there is a environment variable called PATH. Okay, PATH is the environment variable which is updated with the list of the directories where it has to search for getting the absolute path of this command. Okay, so if you want to see the current value of this environment variable, we need to use the command called echo. Okay, so echo is the command to display the value of this particular environment variable. Any environment variable will be having a dollar symbol before that to print the value of this variable. Again, guys, we need not to worry about the environment variable, what it is at the moment. We'll be discussing about this in later sessions as well, right? So this is the default environment variable which is holding the value. The value is the sequence of the multiple directories, guys. If you see the path environment variable output, it has a usr local bin, usr bin, usr local bin, s bin, something like this, usr s bin. All these are the different directories that are delimited, that are separated by a colon as a delimiter. How exactly it works? Whenever you run the ls command, it actually go to this path environment variable, it check for these directories. First, it will look for the ls script in usr local bin. Is it available or not? No, it is not available. Then it check for usr bin location. Is it there? Yes, it is there. Okay, the ls script has to be executed. That is how it will search for this command on the list of directories that are provided as a value to this path environment variable, guys. As of now, you don't need to do any changes to this. This is the default behavior when the system is ready for you. So you are not doing any more changes the moment, but going forward, we may be using this path environment variable for configuring our DevOps tools. But for now, there are no changes. We just need to understand what is this path variable, and we need to understand that whenever you run the command, that actually get the complete path by searching into this list of directories. Good. So now, so let's say, what is our requirement? Our requirement is user add is the command that I wanted to grant the access to this PR user, correct? And of course, when I'm granting the access to run this command for this user, right? Only the super user can be done, right? So now this user will request the super user, hey root user, can you give me the access to run this particular command because I need to run this command as per the business need. Now, whoever is having the root access on this system, that guy will be logging into the server as a root. Of course, I cannot logging into the server as root directly, right? You see in the other terminal, I have two terminals here. In the other terminal, I logged in as a root account. Now I need to grant the user add command to the PR user. That's a requirement, right? Where is the user add command? Where is user add, right? The user add command is available on this location. This is the absolute path of this command. Now, va sudo is the file, sorry, is the command to grant the sudo permissions to the users, right? So just run va sudo enter. The va sudo is opening a file for you. This file is the one where you need to add the requirements, right? There are a lot of statements are available in this file. Ignore all of them for now. I just take you guys to the relevant section at the moment. I'm just going down, guys. You see this guy, guys, allow root to run any commands anywhere. By default, this is having a root entry, right? Don't delete anything in this file, guys. Just add a extra line. So at the moment, I just want to add a one more entry. The entry states that I want to give the access to the PR user, and let just follow the same syntax here. So here we need to specify the no password so that it will not ask for the self password. Then we need to specify the command that you wanted to give the access. I think I need to copy the absolute path. Remember that it's best practice to give the absolute path of the command. Okay, so this is the absolute path of the command. So let me give the absolute path of the command here. So that means this particular command now can be run by the PR user. That is how I'm granting the sudo access to this command, guys. So I'm done with the changes to this configuration file, and I'm just doing the save. Just save this configuration file. Now let me ask the PR user to run the command. In the other terminal, I logged into the server as PR. Now let me run the command. Maybe user add at enter. You still see that the permission is denied. Why? You are running the command directly and it is looking for the permissions of the PR user, and PR does not have any permission to run this command, but he has a sudo permission, correct? So that is where you need to use the sudo as a prefix before the command. Okay, now I'm running this command as sudo user add and the username. Then it will look for the sudo permission. The permission is already granted in the sudo configuration, and that is how this user can run this command as a root. You see now I have not got any error. The user is created. Okay, so how come the user is created? How come the PR user able to run this command? Because of the sudo, right? So now let me go back to the root. Why I'm going to the root again? Because this ordinary user cannot run the va sudo command. The va sudo command will be run only from the super user, right? Whoever is having the super user access can run this command, right? You can just search for that particular pattern, guys. Directly that will take you to that line, rather typing J and coming down. So like that we can add any number of commands, guys. Maybe I can give comma and I can give one more command, comma, one more command possible, right? So I just show you one more thing. I'll go back to the PR user. See, the user add command is working for me, but maybe I want to set a password for this user, right? So definitely the passwd command will not work, right? So only root can do this, correct? So even if you try to give a sudo before this command, still it will not work. Why? The sudoers file, the sudo is not updated with this particular command, so you don't get an access. Now again I need to go there and I need to add the passd command as well in the va sudo. Again we need to know what is the exact location of this command. You see, this is the exact location of this command, and this command has to be granted the access in the va sudo. Now let me go back. So the va sudo is the command that is actually using the etc sudoers configuration file, guys. etc sudoers is the configuration file where exactly it is storing all the configuration data. To open this file, I am using the va sudo command. The va sudo command will open this file for you automatically in the backend. Now let me go to va sudo. Tell me, guys, in the chat window how difficult it is. Let's say I have a user. This user is pretty much a DevOps engineer or a administrator. Okay, so this user need access to run some 100 commands. Just as an example, is it how easy it is to mention the list of 100 commands in this? Too typical, right? So I cannot put a command comma command comma command something like this mentioning all the 100 commands here. If it is one or two commands that I wanted to, yes it is. But if the user is required, right, most of the commands, then rather, right, giving the a specific command, I wanted to give the access to the su command. You see the way how it is working. We already familiar, right? What is su command, right? Su is the command to do the switch, correct? So where is su? Where is su command? So the su command is available in this specific location. So now what I'm doing is I just wanted to grant the access to the su command. Okay, so I'm just giving the access to the su command, right, to this particular user. Let me save it. Now let me ask my user to use the su command. The user has logged into the server here and he is using the su command to go to root, and the su command should run from sudo permission. Sorry, yeah, the su command should run from the sudo permission. Just run sudo su hyphen root, hit enter. You see, guys, this PR user is now able to logging into the root access. So now the PR user is able to jump onto the root account or switch to the root account. Then he can run any command, right? There is no restriction, correct? There is no restriction. I can use passwd and I can set a password as well. Why? Currently all these commands are now executing by the super user. How come? The PR user is directly switched to the root account now. So what I'm trying to prove here is, if you are a real administrator, you need to take a control of the entire system, then it's enough to give a access to the su command. Then you just switch to the root and you get a complete access on that and start working on. That is what is happened for the EC2 hyphen username. The EC2 hyphen user is by default, right? Well, so why there is one more downtime, guys? Can you guess? My power is back. Okay, so I think that is how it is, right? So now you should be able to hear me. Well, so when the power is gone, when the network is gone, my session is terminated. I just need to logging into the system again, right? So what I'm trying to prove here is, so we can just use the sudo su hyphen at enter. The sudo su hyphen root, sudo su hyphen, both are same, guys. If you are not giving the username here to which user you wanted to switch, by default it is considering as a root. That is what we are running this command from the EC2 hyphen user. Yes, now you will know what does it mean by this command and why, right? We are running this command to switch to the root and how to grant the access to this command for a ordinary accounts that you are creating in. Great. Now let me come back to the PR account. I'm done with the sudo for now, right? And answering to the question that is posted in the chat window by Lakshmana. So there may be custom scripts are there to validate the sudoers and removing the unnecessary entries automatically. That is out of the sudo concept, right? So now I really wanted to talk about some security aspect, guys. What does it mean by security aspect? Maybe before I jump on to the security issues that we have now, I just want to, uh, create a scenario. For that, let me create one more user account. I have the PR account already. Let me create one more account, guys. Maybe I will use sudo user add. Maybe I'm just creating AR account, right? Yeah, this is expected because this command is not given in the sudo, right? I have given the access only for the su command, correct? Not for this command. This is removed sometime back. So it is not allowing me to run this command now. This is expected. So what I do is I'll just go to the root to create one more user account. Let me go to there. I'm just switching from one window to the other window, guys. So one I will be keeping as a root account. The other one I wanted to work with the ordinary account, right? So when the user is able to do a sudo su hyphen, when the user is able to switch to the root, yes, the root is now got the complete access, right? The super user is the one who has got the complete access. Now, I just want to create one more user, as I said. So let me create a user. It's already there. Let me set a password. Good. Now I will be logging into the server with this AR user. Here only I can take a new session. Sorry. I can take a duplicate session so that it will just, you know, give you a new terminal with the same server. AR is my username. AR123 is my password. So I have 2 users. So here the scenario that I wanted to build in, there are 2 user accounts that are logged into the same server. The users are started creating the files. When the file is created, the file will be created with some characteristics, guys. And the file characteristics can be seen by using the ls-l command. In this characteristics, we can see the permissions of the file. We can see the timestamp when this file is recently modified. We can see few more information as well. Now we need to understand this ls-l output, right? So I wanted to get started with this permission concept now. So that means when this particular file is created by a AR user, maybe this file should not be readable, should not be writable by the other users who are logged into the same server. That's a requirement, correct? Obviously, when the file is created, it's possible that the other users who logged into the same server can go to the location where this file is created by the AR user and can access it as well, right? So that is something that I need to restrict now. Maybe AR user has created a file. Maybe he is putting some content there. You see that via F1, maybe data added by AR. Where is this file, guys? This file is currently in a location called /home/ar/f1. That is the complete path of this file, correct? Now, there is a possibility that the other users who are logged into the same server can go to this location where this file is available, can read the data. Let me try that, right? So I'm just switching my terminal back to the other user who are logged into the same server. This user is now trying to read the data that is available in the specific location. Give me a second, guys. I'm just trying to build the scenario here. Don't worry about this command, right? You see, the problem here is the file is created by a, sorry, ls-l. The problem is the F1 file is created on a specific location by a AR user, and this content is now readable by the PR user, right, logging into the same server. That is the concern. Obviously, when the multiple people are logging into the server, the files that are created by a user should be restricted, right, in such a way that who should able to access my file, right? That is something should be able to grant the permission to that users. I don't want everyone just come and access my files. So here maybe this is the concern because the PR user who logged into the server is able to read the content of the file, right? But the content is written by the different user. Maybe this is the security issue, right? So the the authorization issues. So that is something I need to control by using the Linux permissions concept, guys. So now let's talk about the permissions, how it works in Linux, right? So the goal is if you are creating a file or directory, you can restrict the file or directory should be accessible by whom in the system. If multiple people are accessing my system, right? That's how it is. Now, so when you are talking about the permissions, guys, in the Linux there are three type of permissions are there. Read permission, right? So the read permission, write permission, and execute permission. These are the three different type of permissions are available in the Linux system, right? Now let's say a user is creating a file then the user can read the file, user can write the file, user can execute the file. That is how it is. Read is treated as a R, letter R. Write is in shortcut we are representing it as a W. Execute permission is represented as a X. Now it's your responsibility. That means the owner of the file who has created a file, that guy is called as a owner, correct? So the multiple people are accessing my system now, and everyone has a privilege to create a file. Who created a file, that guy is called as a owner. The owner has a complete right to decide what permission has to be granted to the file. Even if you go back to the system now, I think in the screen, you see this particular file. If you look into this metadata, this particular column is talking about the owner information. Who is the owner of the file? That what we can see from this column, guys. Here we can see AR. That means AR is the owner of the file. Even AR is the owner of the file, AR user can decide what should be the permissions of this file, no one else, right? So that's how the owner can decide what permissions has to be granted for this user now. So maybe the system has couple of user accounts. It may lead to the confusion now. Okay, let me talk about the requirement, guys. So I have a, let's talk about the general names. Okay, I have a user 1, I have a user 2, I have a user 3, I have a user 4. Let's say I have 4 users in the system, guys, and everyone is right doing some job responsibilities on the system. The requirement is I have a AR user who are creating a files here. He is the owner of the file that he is creating. The requirement is right, the user 1, right, should able to read the file. The file that is created by the AR user, that should be readable by a user 1. When the user 1 logging into the server, he should able to read this file. That's a requirement. The other requirement that I have, right, the user 2 and user 3, these two users should able to read as well as write. Maybe I'll give only the write access for now, right? So this users should able to only write to the file, right? Maybe the other user that I have, user 4, this user should able to, right, do the maybe read and write. Maybe for this I'll give, yeah, that's fine. So the user 4 should able to read the file and should able to write the file. That's the requirement now, guys. How do we achieve this requirement? Who is deciding the permissions, guys? Decide in the sense, who will be setting the permissions to the file? Definitely the owner of the file will be setting the permissions. He need to set the permissions as per this requirement. This is how the user should be able to access the same file. This is where the Linux is more secured compared to the Windows, because this Linux permissions concept is very, enforced in the Linux system. So the files will not be accessed just like that. If the owner is granting the access, then only you can access the data or the file or directory, right? Well, now let me go back to the system, guys. Let me copy this line. So this is the output of the ls-l, right? Right. So in this is what is called as a owner name. This is just telling you that who is the owner of the file. right? And I'm interested on this permission section now, guys. You see there are a lot of characters here. The first character we already familiar that is just a representation. The given entry is the file or directory. After that we can see the permissions here. I just wanted to divide these permissions accordingly, right? So the R means read access, W means write access, X means execution permission. Okay, the starting RWX, these three positions are related to the owner. That means whatever you see the three positions after the hyphen, these three positions are applicable for the owner, guys. That means if the owner logging into the server, the owner can read the file, owner can write the file, owner can execute the file. That is how we need to understand what owner can do on this file. So the starting three positions will be applicable for the owner. Now let's talk about the other three characters. These three characters are applicable for the group, guys. So this is applicable for the group. So the first one is applicable for the owner. What does it mean by the group here? If you look into the requirement, guys, here the user 2 and user 3 both are looking for the same permission, correct? Whoever the users are looking for the same set of permissions, I can add those people into a group. So now these two people I'm just putting into a group. The group name could be anything. Let's say I'm just giving the group name as DevOps group. So the user 2, user 3, both users I'm putting into the DevOps group. This is the group name. Now, how I'm going to achieve this, guys? The second set of three characters are related to the group permission, right? So I will be assigning this particular file to the DevOps group. So in this particular entry, whatever you see here, let me highlight this. So after the owner name, whatever you see, this is the group information, guys. By default, the owner name will be mentioned as a group name also. That is the default behavior, but let me change it. Let's say my requirement is this particular file, right, should be granted a access to the set of group people, right? So this particular entry, I just want to change to the DevOps. I am just adding my file to the DevOps group. When your file is in the DevOps group, then the group permissions will be applicable for the people who are part of the same group. That is the logic here. Now, in this case, when my file is in the DevOps group, the second set of three permissions are applicable for the group people. In this case, user 2, user 3 are part of the DevOps group, right? So these two users will get the access to the second set of permissions. Now, whatever you see the third one, right? The third set of three characters, these will be belongs to others, guys. Others in the sense the user who are not belongs to the owner, the user who are not belongs to the same group of the file, that user is considered as a other. In this example, the user 4 is considered as a others. Okay, maybe just to avoid the confusion, I can even keep this user 1. Maybe the user 1 is AR, is the owner of the file, right? So now the user 4 is considered as a other. Even the user 4 logged into the server, he will be accessing the system based on the last three set of permissions, guys. Now tell me, okay, if I want to achieve this requirement, what should be my permissions, guys? My permissions should be hyphen, that is the starting character, or the read permission for the owner. I don't want to give the write permission. I don't want to give the execution permission for the owner, correct? That is the requirement that we talk about sometime back here. I'm done. Now the DevOps group people should get the write access. The second set of three elements are related to the group permission. I don't want to give the read permission. I want to give the write permission. I don't want to give the execution permission for the group people. The others should be able to get the read and the write permission, right? So I want to give the read permission for others, and I want to give the write permission for others. Don't give the execution permission. This is how the owner has to set permissions, right, on this file to achieve this requirement. Of course, not only the permissions, the group of the file should be a DevOps. That's the more important. The owner is AR, right? The group of the file should be a DevOps. Then only the user 2, user 3 can get the group permissions applicable, right? Why? The file is in the DevOps group and the users are also in the DevOps group. These people will logging into the server and they will be getting the group permissions. Simply put, when you are logging into the server, if you want to know what permissions are there for the given file, you just need to look at, are you the owner of the file? If you are not the owner, the first set of three permissions will not be applicable for you. The second check, are you part of the same group? If yes, the second set will be applicable. If not, no permissions for the group. Then you will be considered as a others. That is how you need to cross check. You will be falling under which category here to know what permissions will be applicable for you, right, to access that particular file. This is great, right? Now there are some puzzles, right? The puzzles in the sense we should know how to create a group, correct? So theoretically we discussed a lot of things here, but how to create a group, correct? And we should know how to change group of the file, correct? Because the file should be in the DevOps group in this case. So we should know the command how I can put a file into a specific group. Now we should know how to add users to the group, correct? Once the group is created, I want to add this user 2, user 3 into the group, right? So we should know how to add the users to the group, correct? Then we should know how to set permissions. So we should know the commands for all of these four puzzles that we have. Then we can work through the permission concept, guys. Okay, so now the numerical assignment is given for all these permissions, guys. The read permission is identified as a number 4. Write permission is identified as a number 2. Execution permission is identified as a number 1. That is the standard numerical assignment for these permissions, guys. Okay, whenever you have a clarity what permissions that I need to give to the file for the owner, for the group, and for others, right, then we need to use the command to set the permissions to that file, right? So the command is chmod to set the permissions, right? Then you need to decide, or you need to specify the permissions has to be defined for which file. Then we need to set what permission that you want to set. Here my requirement is the owner should get read, the group should get write, others should get read and write, correct? So it should be like this. You will be having three positions here to give this information, right? So first one is about the owner. The owner should get the read. Read means 4. Just mention 4 here. The next character is about the group permission. The group should get what? The group should get a write permission. The write permission number is 2. Mention 2 here. The other should get read and write, correct? The read permission is number 4 and write permission is number 2. 4 plus 2, 6. So that is what we need to mention here. So just mention 6 here, right? So that is how we need to compose the command to set the permissions, guys. Now chmod 426 F1, this command will grant these permissions. Let me try that. I'll just go to the server. Who can run this command, guys? By the way, anyone can run this command to set a permission to the file? No, only the owner can run this command to set a permission, no one else, right? So here the AR user logged into the server because he is the owner of the file, correct? Chmod, change the permissions. I want to give a 4 for the owner, 2 for the group, 6 for the others. Specify the file name to which file you wanted to give the permission, and now you verify again. You see, the owner has got a read permission, the group has got a write permission, the others are getting the read and write permission, guys. That is how we need to change. So we need to calculate the number that you need to assign in the command based on this numerical assignment. If you wanted to give the read, write and execute all these 3 options, then it will be 4 plus 2 plus 1, total number is 7. If you give 7, then that will give the complete access. You see, chmod 777, let's say F1 plus minus L. You see, 7 means read, write, execution, right? And this has got a complete access for everyone. Chmod 444 F1. Now you see, 4 means read permission, right? Everyone has got a read permission. That is how you need to calculate the numerical assignment and run the chmod command, guys. This is great. Now the problem is we are able to manage the permissions for the owner and for the group for the others. Now it's very important to see what is the group of this file. As of now, this particular F1 file is in the AR group, correct? Now it should be a DevOps group as per my requirement, right? Now how do we change the group of this particular file? That is what we need to look at. Before I'm changing this group, first of all the group should be exist, right? So first of all we should create a group. Who can create a group, guys? The ordinary user can create a group? No, right? Creating a group is something a configuration change on the system, only a root can do that. So to achieve this requirement that we talk about, I need a DevOps group, correct? So I'm just trying to address this particular point number 1. So we have a command called group add, right, to create a groups. So let me go to the root account here. Group add, I want to create a group called DevOps. You see here the DevOps group is created. I'm done with this particular point number 1, right? Now the other thing is how to change group of the file, right? The file is currently in the different group altogether. I want to change that to the DevOps group. So let me run the command. I think let me specify the command here first, right? For this particular thing, we need to run the command called chgrp. This is the command to change the group of a file or directory, right? Let me do that. Who can run this command, guys? chgrp, owner, any other ordinary user, or only the root, right? The chgrp is again will run only from the root because this is the major configuration change from the system perspective, right? So I'll go back to the root. chgrp devaps is the group that I want to set for the file f1. Where is the f1 file? The f1 file is under the AR folder. It is under the home folder. Sorry, correct. This is the absolute path of this file. So hit enter. Now you verify, guys. ls-home/ar/f1. The file, the group is now changed to the devaps. Now, if AR user logged into the server, he can use this owner permission. If any user who are part of this devaps group will use the group permission, others will use the other permissions. Now the other puzzle is here. How do I add users to the group? This is where we can use the command called user mod. User mod is the command to modify the existing user properties, right? So we need to use the user mod command to modify the or adding the user to the group. So user mod, I want to add a group. So this is the flag for adding the group. I want to add a devaps group for the user. So we can specify the username here. Maybe just to match with our discussion, I'm just creating a user called user1 here. Then I can run user mod -a -g devaps is the group that I want to add to user1. Now the user1 is part of the devaps group, guys. Now any file or directory which is belongs to the devaps group, right? For those, this user can get the group permissions. If you wanted to verify the user is part of which groups, we can always use a command called id. You see here id and then give the name of the user. It will tell you this user is part of which groups. As of now, you can see that the devaps group is added there, right? Even if you see the PR user, let's say this user is not part of the devaps, but the user one is part of the devaps because we have added that user to the group by using the user mod command, right? So give me a minute, guys. I'll be back with a glass of water. I'll be on mute for a minute of time. Well, guys, and this is great. The id command is super, right, to know the user is part of the which groups, right? So now there are few things. I have created a group. The group information will be stored into the file called etc group, right? Slash etc slash group is the file where the group information will be stored. If you look into this file etc group, right, we can see somewhere that DevApps is the group name, and who are part of the DevApps group as of today? User one, he is part of this group, right? This is how we need to verify this group has, I mean to say, which users are a part of this group. This is how we need to look at, guys. If you want to see for the specific user, you can use the id command, but maybe from the group side, if you wanted to see, you can just look into this file and see, right, who are part of this specific group. All these are the group, guys. User one is the group, DevApps is the group, ME is the group, AR is the group, PR is the group. How come the group name is same as the username? Correct? That is the tricky here, guys. By default, when you have created a user account, it creates a user also, it creates a group also with the same name, with the same as like a username. The group also will be created. That's the reason when you are creating any file, by default the file owner, the file group will be the same, but is not mean that that is the username. That is just a the group name. You see here, let's say I'm creating a file. Let me see my file information. We can see that the owner and the group both are same by default. Why? Right, there is a user created and there will be a group created automatically with the same name, and by default all the files will be belongs to that particular group. Later if you want to change, we can change, but I'm just talking about the default behavior, how it will be. That's the reason you can see the equivalent number of groups automatically created as per the username, right? So whenever you wanted to do the cleanup, you can always use the right user del command to delete the users, right, and maybe a group del command to delete the groups. And I'm sure you don't be getting this requirement to delete the user accounts or deleting the groups in the real time mostly, but maybe during the practice time you may need to do the cleanup and create it again multiple times. So you can just make use of these commands, guys. Good to know. Let me clear the screen.
Here, please go to the paint screen.
Mhm.
1 second, Priya.
Now, yeah, I have the read right. Yeah, that's fine. Let me put the directory here. Really, we have done something through the file, right? The chmod, some permissions to the file. What is the command to modify the permissions of the directory, guys? The command is same. The same command, the same numerical will be applicable for the directory also, but the meaning of the permission will be differ, guys. Let's say if we have a read permission for the file, what you can do, guys? Can you tell me which command you can use to read a file in the chart window? I'll take the red color here. So if you have a read permission to the file, you can run the cat command to see the content of the file. If you have a write permission to the file, which command you can use to write the data? You can use the va command to modify the content. If you have the execution permission, you can execute the file. I'll talk about the execution permission later explicitly, right? As of now, don't worry about how to do the execution. Now tell me, guys, if you have a read permission to the directory, which command you can run, right? So reading the directory means what? Reading the directory is mean that looking into the number of files that are available in the directory. That means you can run a ls command in the directory to see the list of other files and directories. That is what does it mean by the read permission for the directory, right? I cannot use the cat command on the directory because that is not holding the content. So ls is the command to read the directory, is mean that looking into the content. Same way, what if you have a write permission to the directory? What we can do on the directory if you have a write permission? Writing to the directory means what? Writing to the directory is mean that we can create a new file on the directory. We can remove the files in the directory. Maybe you can remove the nested child directories on the parent directory. All these three commands can be run on the directory when you have a write permission. What is the execution permission? Of course, mkdir as well, right? What is the execution permission on the directory, guys? Executing a directory is mean that you can run a cd command to go inside the directory. That is what does it mean by the execution permission for the directory, not ss, right? So we can use the cd to go inside a directory, guys. Of course, when you are working on the system as a root account, you don't get any restrictions. We can read any file, we can write any file, we can go to any directory. It's up to you because root is the super user. You cannot, right, get to know these restrictions when you are operating it from the root. That's the reason we need to create a ordinary accounts to see this behavior, how the permissions are working, right? Because ordinary users are not having the access to the entire system, and definitely you get a access denied issues. Simply, just to make the things clear here, let's say I'm just trying to create a file, guys, and you see the PR user logged into the server. Now I'm just trying to create a file, and I got a permission denied. Can you tell me, guys, in the chat window why I got a permission denied error? Which permission I do not have on where, right? So I'm trying to, of course, I don't have a write permission, but the question is the write permission is not there for what or for where? I'm trying to create a file under root directory. So the user does not have a write permission on the root directory, and we can verify that as well, right? So we can use the ls-ld command just to see the directory itself, rather looking into the list of the childs in the directory. Now you see this is the directory name, and you look into the permissions here, right? The owner, the group, and others, correct? Now you see the PR user is trying to create a file on this directory. Is he owner of the file? No, the starting characters will not be applicable. Is he part of the same group? The directory is in the root group, but my PR user is not in the root group, so the root permissions are not applicable. This user is belongs to others, and when you look into the others permission of this directory, he can only read the data, can execute the directory, but he cannot write to the directory. That's the reason he got a permission issue. So this user can go to the root by running the cd command because he has got the execution permission. He can see the list of files available under the slash because he has got the read permission, but he cannot write to the directory because he does not have a write access to that. That is how we need to understand the permissions, guys. And of course, who can manipulate the permissions? Let's say the PR user should be able to write to the root as well. Who can grant the write access to this root directory. Only owner can run chmod command to grant the permissions or change the permissions, right? In this case, the owner of this root directory is root. So you must be logging in as root. Then you need to manipulate the permissions accordingly as per the requirement, guys.
Pierre, I have one question, Pierre.
Mhm.
So at the starting of this, you said that touch and /F1, right? Touch command you use it to create the file, right?
Yep.
But we are telling that you need to write to the root directory. I have confusion.
Don't worry. If your command is working, that means you have got access. Okay. So initially when I ran the command, I might be in the root. Okay. I am in the root. Yes, I can create a file under the root. Not a problem because I am the owner. And of course, the root can do anything. When you are working from the root, we need not to even check for the access because root is the super user, right?
Yeah.
All these permissions will be implicated only for the ordinary accounts. Don't look at the root. Even when you look into the, sorry, right? When you guys are looking into the root directory permissions, right? Even the owner does not have a write permission. If you look at here, who am I? Root, right? The root currently logged into the server. The owner of this directory is root. From the concept wise, these are the permissions that will be applicable for the owner. But here the root is the super user. So don't look into the permissions when you are working from the root. Root can do anything.
Okay. But
Right?
you are using a peer user, right?
No way. Okay. No way. Well,
If
now
I'm
guys, I
using,
think no way. Okay. If you are using the PR account, you cannot until unless you have an access to that. Okay. So maybe you have looked into that in initial session, right, where I have executed the command. Probably I might have been run it from the root or something else. Anyway, that is the concept how it is. So that means, guys, maybe I have not covered everything what you need at the moment to do your lab practice, but I tried most of the stuff, right? So what is that you need to do, right? Create multiple user accounts and create a groups, add the users into the group, then logging into the server with the different user accounts, create some files and try to grant the permissions or changing the permissions of the file and try to access those files from the different user accounts, and you see exactly what errors that you are getting in. And when you get an error, just go to the owner of the file and just try to change the permissions and see how those are working for the read and write and execution. Of course, execution I'll talk about in tomorrow for the files how it will be, but as of now, read and write for the file, read write execution for the directory, you can manipulate it. So during this exercise, guys, pwd command will definitely give you, right, it's more helpful command to see where you are currently. That is where you need to know the absolute and relative paths as well when you are trying to access the files from the different account, right? So I think that's the conclusion for today, guys, and the remaining aspects related to the permissions and other stuff will be covered today. Probably if there are some gaps in this discussion, all those gaps will be filled by tomorrow after I discuss something else which are supporting concepts to this permission section as well. So by tomorrow end of the session, you get a complete picture on this the permissions and other things that will help you to do the complete lab practice on this case. Thank you. Please go on with your questions if you have any.
Pierre, how
Yes.
will add users to the group?
That is where we have used the command called user mod, right? So user mod is the command that I used to add the users. Let's say user mod -a-g devaps is the one I want to add this user to the devaps group. What happened? Yeah,
Okay.
I deleted the
Yeah.
group, right? That's why it is complaining that the group is not exist. So that is fine. So I'm going to send this exact command that is what I have used in this session, right? As part of the goals after the session. And as I explained, right, -a means adding the group, because I can have a user part of multiple groups, right? The user can be part of the DevOps, can be part of the other groups as well if you want. So a flag is all about adding the or appending the new groups. G is the flag specifying that I'm just adding the additional groups, right? Usually, as per the Linux command line pattern, whenever you are giving the argument, before the argument, you maybe need to give the a flag. That flag will tell exactly what is that you are giving here, right? That's how it works. So I'm using two flags here, one flag to tell that I'm appending a new group. The other flag is telling that this is the group that I want to append.
Okay. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you.
Hi, Pierre. Sorry, you said that you are going to give this command after the session. So are you going to give it in Slack channels, or where did you want to give it?
Mhm. Yeah, I'll be putting in Slack as well as in the WhatsApp group. Usually I'll be sending the goals right after the session. As part of the goals, I'll be mentioning the commands as well what I'm using on the sessions,
Okay, cool. Thanks.
right? So again, right, answering to the Karthik question, I should not bring this permission concept to the root. Root can do anything. The root can do, right? Root can change the permissions of the normal user also, right? So root can do anything in a single statement.
Yeah, hi PR.
Hi Aditya.
As we discussed about root privileges to normal users, how to change that policy?
Which policy that you wanted to change?
Full access to the user, or can
Yeah.
we create a group like administrator group and provide a sudo access to that group? Can we
Mhm.
have quick session about it?
No, that will be covered tomorrow. Okay, regarding the way how we can have a admin group and adding the people to the admin group. So as of today, I have granted the complete access to the ordinary users by using the sudo. Okay, explicitly for one user, I given the sudo su access, right? That is where the user will get into the root to get the complete access. Yes, it's possible to grant the access using the group as well. So I think I wanted to talk about that tomorrow, because by the time I was explaining about the sudo, we don't have any clue about the groups. So by the time we complete the groups discussion, we are run out of the time. That's the reason. But if you go to the sudo, right, this is how we need to mention the groups. So this is the group name. This group has a complete access. Now, whichever the user is part of this group will get a complete access, simply put. So all what you need to do is just add this group to the user. The wheel is the default group which is having the admin access. Now, if you want to give the superuser access for any user, you just need to do user mod and add the wheel group to the user. That's it. That wheel group is by default available on the Linux systems. We need not to create them. By default, that is the admin group, right?
Okay.
So answering
And
to the
one more
Karthik,
question.
yes, I'll be covering tomorrow how to change the owner of the file.
Okay. So one more question is there, like file permissions. Suppose we have different groups and we want to give same permission to the different groups. How it is possible?
Yeah, it's possible. That is not part of the base permission. that is treated as a extended permission. So that can be possible through the extended permission. That is the altogether a different concept called ACL. But as of now, yes, it is possible. That can be done through the ACL. That is not part of your CH mode.
Okay.
Hi, Priya. Hi, Priya. Mr. Shankar here. So my
Right.
question is like, so Priya, you have told us like whenever we create one user, so automatically with the same name, a group is also be created, right?
Correct. Correct.
So suppose you have created one user with name PR, then automatically one PR group is also created. So if we
Correct.
delete the username PR, then automatically the group PR also be deleted, or it will be there only, or
Mm-hmm.
separately we need to
So
delete the group.
user del. Let me delete. Oh, user del user one. Okay, we have deleted this user, right? Let me see what is the behavior, right? So can you see user one group? No, that is proving that the groups are deleting automatically.
Okay, it means whenever we delete user, then with the same name, group is also been deleted.
Correct.
Okay.
Here, one doubt. See, the thing is like if you have if you're updating the sudoer file, so somebody is also updating the sudoer file. I'm just taking all permissions. Somebody is modifying this read permission. Like, how do we control it? Like, these customers modified the sudo file like that. Do we have any message or something like that?
So you don't get into that situation first of all. Okay, the sudoers file will be modified only from the root. So do you think the number of people are accessing the root account to modify the sudo at the same time? No, I don't think so. First of all, the second point, no, we don't have any specialized control in no, don't modify the multiple users at the same time. No, you don't have that. Okay. So if you really look into the real-time requirement perspective, right, you get a requirement for someone. Hey, please add a permission to this user. When you get a requirement, the requirement will be assigned to a specific engineer, and that engineer is responsible to go there and change the configuration to add a permission. Why the other will just come and do the modification without having a requirement, right?
So in
So
case,
if you want to run any command on the system, there is a need. Someone has to instruct you. You get a business need, then only you will be doing some changes, right? So just like that, the people cannot go to the VA sudo and just doing some modifications or removing. As you said, if when you are keep on adding the permission and someone is removing the same permission, no, that will never happen, because the requirement comes in as per the requirement, the engineer will be logging in and working on.
so consider that I have one service account which is having a kind of a sudo right, not root right. So, like I'm giving elevating the specific rights. So with that service account, if I couldn't do the deployment for the web server or Tomcat, so can I give elevate root access to that account, like but sudo all? Can I give that? It is a good setup for a production environment, because once you give sudo all means that person can do anything without my knowledge.
So if you say, can I? Yes. But when you talk about the best practice, no. Why you give all access? You can restrict the command that they need to use to do the deployment. What is the command that they need to run to do the deployment, to run their application server, whatever? Just restrict them to run only that specific command, right? That's more cool. Even that's one example, one answer for you. The other answer, first of all, why a user need a root access to manage the application server? The application itself can run as a application user, and that application user can do whatever they wanted to do for that application. So you don't need a root access first of all to manage your application, because your application is nowhere running it as a root account. It's running with its own application specific account. So that is what need to do the setup from the best practice perspective. That means if you are really running an Apache server, don't run Apache as a root user, run Apache as Apache user. So that way you log in as Apache user and you got a full control on that application, whatever you wanted to do. You don't need a root access.
Do we have any predefined users like web user, backup user, Apache user?
No, no. So that is depends on the application, guys. Okay. There is no a straight answer for me. Let's say when you are installing the Apache web server, possibly the Apache user will be created automatically. That user is responsible to manage that application. Okay. When you are installing the Jenkins, let's say the Jenkins user will be created automatically. That user is responsible managing that application. So, but this is not the case for every time. Sometimes when you are installing some XYZ application, right, there may be chances that the user is not created automatically. Maybe you need to create it and set it up. Sometimes the user may create automatically for that application, and that user will get the complete access on that application. You can use only that user account, right, to manage it. So it's like case to case basis based on the application behavior, if the default user will be created or not related to that application.
Thanks.
Yeah. So answering to Karthik, it won't give you any error that the file is locked. So it will open for both. Okay. But we'll not get into that kind of the scenario where the multiple people are editing a single file, as I said some time back, right? So when there is a requirement to do something, only that requirement will be assigned to an engineer, and that engineer is responsible to do that change, right? Not just like that everyone is going and modifying the file at the same time. That's where a rare situation, but if that is happen, so yes, there is no locking mechanism there, right? So answering to the Satish, right, that is the question that will be answered later, guys. Okay, how an DevOps engineer use the Linux, correct? So we are learning the Linux basics as of now. Later we will come to know how these Linux basics are helpful for an DevOps engineer when we are getting on to the next layer of discussions, like discussing about the DevOps tooling and all.
Hi, Pierre. So actually, I'm from the batch too, but I mean, due to some personal reasons, I couldn't attend almost all the classes. So I mean, I just wanted to know like what are all the access which has to be given to me, so that I mean, can you just list the access like the Slack or some, I mean, the Excel sheet which you opened at the beginning of the session. So just wanted to track all these things at one place, so it will be useful for us. Like, what
Yeah,
are all the
most of the
access?
links, most of the links that you can identify, you can find in the group description itself.
Where is that?
Whichever the group that you have added, right, in that group description, you should be able to see all of the links that we are following. If not,
Okay, in the okay. So in the
correct,
WhatsApp
correct.
DP202 I can see. Okay, okay. Sure. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you.
Hi, Pia.
Yes, Shankar.
Pia, one means last question which I have asked related to the same. I have one more question. So suppose you have said if we create one group, then automatically the with the same name. Sorry, if we create any username, then automatically with the same name one group will be created. And if we delete the username, then automatically the group will also be deleted, right?
Yep.
So what we are doing is there one scenario. Suppose if we create one user, which is PR. Okay, then automatically the group will be deleted. If we create user, then again the group will also be created with the same name PR. But this time I want to delete PR group, PR group. So will it delete the username also?
No.
No. Okay. For me, it means if whenever we delete the username, then only group will delete it automatically. Or if we try to delete group, then it will not delete username, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I think thanks guys for your time today. We'll close these permissions concepts by tomorrow. We should be in a good state, right, to work on the Linux by tomorrow end of the session. Thank you.